If you hold dual citizenship, if you carry two passports from different countries, or if you are planning any international travel in 2026, I need you to pause whatever you are doing right now and pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because this year, the United States, the European Union, and the United Kingdom are all implementing major upgrades to their border control systems that involve facial recognition technology, fingerprint biometrics, automated entry-exit tracking, and sophisticated databases that can detect when the same person is traveling on multiple passports. These changes are not specifically targeting dual citizens or designed to create problems for people with legitimate dual nationality. But when your two passports simultaneously appear in interconnected government databases, even small inconsistencies in how your information appears, minor differences in name spelling, or confusion about which passport you used for which trip can trigger automatic flags, secondary screening, additional questioning, and delays that turn a smooth border crossing into a 30 to 60-minute ordeal where you stand nervously wondering whether you did something wrong. Many dual passport holders have already experienced these delays at major airports and border crossings over the past few months as these new systems have been rolling out in phases, and the confusion and anxiety are real. People are asking questions like, which passport should I use to register for global entry or other trusted traveler programs? Will TSA pre-check still work if I book flights using my non-American passport? What happens when facial recognition systems detect that I entered one country on passport A, but I am trying to leave on passport B? Will border agents think I am trying to hide something or evade tracking? Should I proactively explain my dual citizenship every time I cross a border? Or will that just make me look suspicious? And the biggest fear of all, could using my passports incorrectly somehow jeopardize my citizenship status in one or both countries? Today, I am not here to frighten you or to suggest that dual citizenship has suddenly become dangerous or problematic. I am here to help you prepare, to give you clear, practical guidance, and to explain exactly how these new biometric border systems work so you can travel confidently and smoothly without unnecessary stress or delays. By the end of this video, you will know which passport to use for global entry registration, how TSA PreCheck works when you have multiple passports, how to handle biometric screening at automated border gates, what to do if your two passports have slightly different information, and most importantly, you will have a practical 5-step action checklist of things you can do today, right now, to prepare yourself for hassle-free international travel throughout 2026 and beyond. So take a deep breath. We are going to walk through this together slowly, clearly, and calmly. Hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Carson, and my channel is dedicated to explaining United States immigration rules, international travel regulations, and border policies in the simplest, most straightforward language possible without confusing legal jargon or unnecessary panic. I know that living with dual citizenship is a beautiful privilege that gives you connections to two cultures, two communities, and the freedom to live and work in multiple countries. But I also know that border crossing rules can sometimes feel overwhelming and confusing, especially when you are standing in line at passport control trying to decide which passport to show, or when you are filling out a global entry application wondering whether you need to disclose your second nationality, or when an automated gate rejects your passport and you have no idea why. You are not alone in feeling this confusion. I have spoken with highly educated professionals, successful business people, and seasoned international travelers who all struggle with these exact same questions. The good news, the genuinely reassuring news that should immediately lower your stress level, is that these new border systems are actually designed to make travel safer and faster for legitimate travelers, not to create obstacles or trap people who have done nothing wrong. The biometric technology, the facial recognition, the automated gates, all of this exists to speed up processing for the overwhelming majority of travelers while identifying the tiny percentage of people who present actual security risks. If you understand the rules, prepare your documents correctly, and know what to expect, you will actually benefit from these systems because you will move through borders faster than ever before. The problems only arise when people are unprepared, confused about procedures, or caught off guard by questions they did not anticipate. So let's start by understanding exactly what is actually changing at borders in 2026. Because you need to know what these new biometric systems are, how they work, and why they are being implemented before we can talk about how to navigate them successfully as a dual passport holder. Let's break this down by region, because the United States, the European Union, and the United Kingdom are each implementing different but related systems that you need to understand separately. In the United States, the Department of Homeland Security finalized regulations in December 2025 that significantly expand the use of facial recognition biometric technology at all ports of entry, including airports, land borders, and seaports. Throughout 2026, you will increasingly encounter biometric verification at more and more locations. If you are a non-US citizen entering or leaving the United States, facial recognition is now mandatory at most major international airports. The system takes your photo, compares it instantly against the passport you presented and against databases of visa photos, previous entry-exit records, and watch lists, and verifies your identity in seconds. If you are a US citizen, facial recognition is technically voluntary, but it is becoming the default at many airports, and you may need to specifically opt out if you do not want to participate. For Global Entry Trusted Traveler Program members, which we will discuss in detail shortly, biometric verification has been standard for years. You approach the Global Entry kiosk, it scans your face, verifies your identity, and clears you for entry without any human interaction in most cases. The important thing to understand about the US system is that it is designed to track entries and exits more comprehensively than in the past. Every time you cross the border, whether entering or leaving, that movement is recorded biometrically and linked to whichever passport you presented. If you are a dual citizen and you enter the United States on your American passport, but then try to leave on your other passport or vice versa, the system will detect the mismatch because your facial biometrics are the same, even though the passport numbers are different. This does not mean you have done anything illegal, but it may trigger additional questions from a Customs and Border Protection officer who wants to understand why you are using different documents. In the European Union, specifically the 29 countries that make up the Schengen area, a massive new system called the Entry-Exit System, abbreviated as EES, began rolling out in phases starting in October 2025 and will be fully mandatory across all Schengen borders by April 10th, 2026. This is one of the biggest changes to European border control in decades. Here is how EES works. If you are a non-EU citizen entering the Schengen area, the first time you cross the border after EES is fully implemented, you will be required to provide fingerprints and a facial image at the border control point. This biometric information will be stored in a centralized EU database along with your passport information and your entry-exit records. After this initial enrollment, every subsequent time you enter or leave the Schengen area, you will use automated self-service kiosks that scan your passport and use facial recognition to verify your identity against the biometric data on file. No more passport stamps. No more manual checks by border officers in most cases. You scan your passport, the camera verifies your face, the gate opens, and you proceed. The stated goal is to make border crossing much faster for legitimate travelers while creating a comprehensive database of all non-EU citizen movements in and out of the Schengen area. For dual citizens who hold an EU passport from any Schengen country plus another passport, you can use your EU passport to enter and exit the Schengen area, and you will use the EU citizen lanes, which are typically much faster. But if you use your non-EU passport, you will go through the EES enrollment and verification process just like any other non-EU traveler. The critical thing to understand is that the two passport identities may be linked in the system if your biometric data matches, which it will because your face and fingerprints are the same regardless of which passport you present. In the United Kingdom, which is no longer part of the European Union or the Schengen area, there are two major changes happening in 2026 that dual British citizens absolutely must understand. First, starting November 10th, 2025, and expanding throughout 2026, the UK implemented an electronic travel authorization system called ETA that is now required for most non-visa nationals visiting the UK. If you are a dual citizen who holds a British passport plus another passport, you must understand this rule. When entering the United Kingdom, you are legally required to use your British passport, not your other passport. This is not optional. This is not just a recommendation. This is a legal requirement. If you hold British citizenship, you must enter and leave the UK on your British passport. If you try to enter the UK using your other passport, particularly if that other passport requires an ETA, you will face problems. Airlines may refuse to board you if they detect that you are a British citizen trying to travel to the UK without using your British passport, because the airline can be fined for transporting someone improperly documented. If you somehow make it to UK border control with the wrong passport, you will face questioning and potential entry denial until you can prove your British citizenship. This UK rule is causing enormous confusion for dual British citizens who have been casually using whichever passport seemed more convenient. And it is super important that you understand and follow it starting February 25th, 2026, when this becomes strictly enforced. Bring your British passport. Use your British passport to enter and exit the UK. Do not try to use your other passport thinking it will be faster or easier. It will not be. It will create problems. Now let's talk about how Global Entry, TSA PreCheck, and other trusted traveler programs work when you have dual citizenship and multiple passports, because this is one of the most common sources of confusion and one of the areas where understanding the rules can dramatically improve your travel experience. Global Entry is a U.S. Customs and Border Protection program that allows expedited clearance for pre-approved low-risk travelers entering the United States. When you are a Global Entry member, instead of waiting in long passport control lines when you arrive in the U.S., you go directly to a Global Entry kiosk, scan your passport or provide your fingerprints, answer a few questions on the touch screen, and proceed to baggage claim and exit without speaking to any officer, unless you are randomly selected for additional screening or you declared something that requires inspection. The question dual citizens ask constantly is, can I have Global Entry if I have two passports? And if so, which passport should I use to register? The answer is absolutely yes. U.S. citizens can apply for and receive Global Entry even if they also hold citizenship in another country. When you apply for Global Entry, you apply using your U.S. passport because Global Entry membership is tied to your identity as a U.S. citizen or lawful permanent resident. However, during your application process and your in-person interview at an enrollment center, you are required to disclose all citizenships you hold, and you should bring all of your valid passports to the interview. The CBP officer will ask you about your other citizenship, will examine your other passport, and will enter information about it into your Global Entry record. After you are approved for Global Entry, you should immediately log in to your Trusted Traveler Programs account online at ttp.dhs.gov and add your second passport to your profile if it was not already added during the interview. This ensures that both of your passport numbers are in the system and linked to your Global Entry membership. Why does this matter? Because if you travel internationally and re-enter the United States, you must use your U.S. passport to enter as required by U.S. law. But having your other passport number in the Global Entry system prevents confusion if border officers see evidence that you used your other passport during your travels. One critically important thing to understand, Global Entry kiosks require you to scan your U.S. passport when entering the United States. You cannot use your non-U.S. passport at a Global Entry kiosk, even if that passport number is in your Global Entry profile. because you are legally required to use your U.S. passport to enter the U.S. as a U.S. citizen. The purpose of having your second passport in the global entry system is for information purposes and to help CBP officers understand your complete travel profile, not to allow you to use that passport at the kiosk. Now let's talk about TSA PreCheck, which is a Transportation Security Administration program that allows expedited security screening at U.S. airports. When you have TSA PreCheck, you can use dedicated faster lanes at security. You do not have to remove your shoes, belt, or light jacket. You do not have to take your laptop or liquids out of your carry-on bag. And you generally get through security much faster and with much less hassle. TSA PreCheck is only available to U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents. If you are a U.S. citizen with dual citizenship, you absolutely can have TSA PreCheck. Here is where it gets interesting and where many dual citizens get confused. TSA PreCheck is tied to your identity and to a known traveler number, abbreviated KTN, that is assigned to you when you are approved. Your KTN is linked to your name and date of birth, but it is not specifically linked to one particular passport number. This means that when you book a flight, you can enter your KTN in the booking process regardless of which passport you use to book the ticket. If the airline successfully matches your KTN to your reservation based on your name and date of birth, your boarding pass will print with a TSA PreCheck indicator, and you can use the PreCheck lanes at security. At the security checkpoint itself, you present either your U.S. passport or your U.S. state-issued driver's license or ID card, or in some cases, your other passport. And as long as the name matches your boarding pass and you have the PreCheck indicator, you can use the expedited lane. Let me give you a real-world example that illustrates how this works in practice. I know a dual U.S.-South Korean citizen who travels frequently between the United States and South Korea for business. When he books a flight from Los Angeles to Seoul, he uses his Korean passport number in the booking because he will be entering South Korea, and he wants his passport information to match what the airline transmits to Korean immigration authorities. However, when he makes the reservation, he also enters his known traveler number in the appropriate field. On the day of travel, his boarding pass prints with the TSA PreCheck indicator, even though he booked the ticket with his Korean passport. At LAX security, he shows his U.S. driver's license or his U.S. passport, goes through the PreCheck lane, and proceeds to his gate. When he arrives in Seoul, he enters using his Korean passport. On his return trip, he does the reverse. The key point is that TSA PreCheck is about security screening, not about passport control. As long as you have a valid KTN and you present appropriate identification at the security checkpoint, TSA PreCheck works regardless of which passport you use to book your ticket. Now, let me give you the 5 most practical, actionable tips specifically designed for dual passport holders to navigate these new biometric border systems successfully and avoid problems. These are the strategies and techniques that will make your international travel smooth and stress-free in 2026. Tip number 1, when registering for trusted traveler programs like Global Entry, use your U.S. passport as your primary registration document. Your U.S. passport is your membership identity. During your application and interview, proactively disclose your other citizenship. Bring your other passport, and make sure the CBP officer enters it into your record. After you are approved, immediately log into your Trusted Traveler Programs account online and verify that your second passport is listed in your profile. If it is not listed, add it yourself through the online portal or contact the Trusted Traveler Programs help desk to have it added. Having both passports in the system creates a complete record of your identity and prevents confusion. Tip number 2, understand which passport you must use for which border crossing and never deviate from these rules. When entering or leaving the United States, you must use your U.S. passport. This is not negotiable. This is federal law. U.S. citizens are required by law to enter and leave the United States using their U.S. passport. When entering or leaving your other country of citizenship, use that country's passport. This is typically the fastest and most efficient option because you can use citizen lanes and avoid additional questions. When entering a third country where you hold citizenship in neither country, choose whichever passport offers you the best entry conditions, whether that is visa-free entry, longer permitted stays, or easier documentation requirements. But once you have chosen which passport to use for entering that country, use the same passport when leaving that country to avoid exit complications. Tip number 3, never present both passports simultaneously to the same person. This is a simple rule that avoids enormous confusion. When you approach a border control officer or an airline check-in agent, present one passport, the appropriate one for that particular situation. Do not hand them a stack of 2 passports and say, I have both of these, and expect them to figure out which one to use. Choose the correct passport before you approach the counter, have it ready, present it, and only mention your other passport if specifically asked about other citizenships or if there is a specific reason that information is relevant. Presenting both passports at once often confuses agents, raises unnecessary questions, and slows down your processing because they do not know which document is the primary one you are using for that transaction. Tip number 4, be prepared with a brief, calm, simple explanation if biometric systems flag a mismatch or if border officers ask about discrepancies in your records. The most common cause of flags and additional questions is when your name appears differently on your 2 passports. This happens frequently due to marriage name changes, different conventions for writing names in different languages, inclusion or omission of middle names, or variations in how names are transliterated from non-Latin alphabets. If you know your 2 passports have different name spellings, be proactive. When you are selected for additional screening or when an officer asks about your identity, calmly explain, I hold dual citizenship in the United States and country X. My name appears slightly differently on my 2 passports due to marriage or due to different naming conventions or whatever the reason is. Here are both of my passports if you need to verify. Have both passports easily accessible in your carry-on or travel document holder so you can present them quickly if needed. Similarly, if your date of birth is formatted differently on the 2 passports, which sometimes happens with day, month, year versus month, day, year variations, or if one passport uses a legal name while the other uses a preferred name, be prepared to explain these differences briefly and factually. Border officers encounter dual citizens constantly. They are familiar with these situations. A clear, honest explanation resolves the issue immediately in almost all cases. The problems arise when people seem evasive, confused about their own identity, or unable to explain simple discrepancies. Tip number 5, keep both passports plus any expired passports that show your travel history easily accessible in your carry-on bag during international travel. Do not pack one passport in your checked luggage. Do not leave one at home assuming you will not need it. Carry both with you. If you have recently renewed one passport and you still have the expired predecessor, carry that too because it contains visa stamps and entry-exit records that may be relevant if questions arise about your previous travels. I recommend using a dedicated travel document organizer or passport holder that can securely hold multiple passports, your global entry card if you have one, and printed copies of your travel itinerary and accommodation confirmations. Having everything organized and immediately accessible allows you to respond quickly and confidently to any questions or issues that arise. Now, let me give you some specific guidance for 2 situations that are creating particular confusion in 2026. Traveling to the United Kingdom as a dual British citizen and traveling to the Schengen area in Europe as a dual citizen. For dual British citizens, the situation is very straightforward, but absolutely must be followed. If you hold British citizenship, you must use your British passport to enter and exit the United Kingdom, period. No exceptions, no flexibility. Even if your other passport offers some perceived advantage, even if you think it might be faster, even if you have always done it a different way in the past, starting in February 2026, this rule is being strictly enforced. Airlines are checking citizenship status during check-in, and if they determine you are a British citizen, they will require you to present your British passport for travel to the UK, or they will deny boarding. At UK border control, if you attempt to enter on a non-British passport when you actually hold British citizenship, you will face lengthy questioning, potential entry denial until you can prove your British citizenship, and possible notation in the system that could cause problems for future travel. Make absolutely certain that your British passport is valid and not expired or about to expire. If your British passport has expired and you only have your other valid passport, you cannot travel to the UK until you renew your British passport. Start that renewal process immediately if your British passport is expired or expiring soon. Do not assume you can just use your other passport as a workaround. You cannot. For travel to the Schengen area in Europe, the situation is more flexible, but you need to understand how the new EES entry-exit system works. If you hold citizenship in any EU country, use your EU passport to enter and exit the Schengen area. You will use the EU EEA Swiss citizen lanes, which are typically much faster, and you will not be subject to EES registration because the system is only for non-EU citizens. If you are a dual citizen with one EU passport and one non-EU passport, always use your EU passport for Schengen travel. It is faster, easier, and avoids unnecessary biometric enrollment. However, if you are a dual citizen with two non-EU passports, you will go through the EES process on your first entry after the system is fully implemented. Bring the passport you plan to use for that trip, approach the EES registration kiosk or counter, provide your fingerprints and facial image as requested, and answer the questions about your planned stay. The biometric data will be stored and linked to that passport. On future trips to the Schengen area, you can use automated gates that verify your identity through facial recognition. If you later travel to Schengen using your other passport, you may need to go through EES registration again with that passport, or the system may recognize you biometrically and link your two passport records. The EU has stated that EES is designed to make border crossing faster, not to create obstacles. So as long as you cooperate with the registration process and have valid travel documents, you should not face problems. Now let me give you a practical action checklist, 5 specific things you can do today, right now, to prepare yourself for hassle-free international travel in 2026. These are concrete, actionable steps that will take you maybe 30 to 60 minutes total to complete, and they will save you hours of stress and delays at borders later. Action step 1, check that your 2 passports have identical or at least compatible information regarding your full legal name, your date of birth, and your sex or gender. Take out both passports right now and compare them line by line. Is your name spelled exactly the same way? Are all your given names and surnames in the same order? Is your date of birth written the same way, even if the format differs? If you notice discrepancies, particularly in your legal name, you need to contact the passport issuing authorities in the relevant country or countries and inquire about correcting the information to ensure consistency. Significant name differences can cause major problems with biometric systems and databases that try to match records based on name and date of birth. Also, check the expiration dates on both passports. Many countries require that your passport be valid for at least 6 months beyond your planned date of departure from that country. If either of your passports will expire in the next 12 months, start the renewal process now, not 2 weeks before your planned trip when you suddenly realize your passport is expired. Action step 2, log in to your Trusted Traveler Programs account at ttp.dhs.gov if you have global entry, and verify that your second passport is listed in your profile. If it is not listed, add it by clicking on the option to update your information or add a passport. You will need to enter the passport number, country of issuance, expiration date, and other details. Having both passports in your TTP profile ensures that CBP officers can see your complete identity and reduces the chances of confusion during entry processing. If you do not yet have global entry, but you are a U.S. citizen who travels internationally, even occasionally, applying for global entry is one of the best investments you can make. The application fee is $100, the membership is valid for 5 years, and the time savings and reduced stress at borders are enormous. Action step 3, Add your known traveler number, whether it is from Global Entry, TSA, PreCheck, or another trusted traveler program, to your frequent flyer accounts with every airline you regularly use. Log into your frequent flyer profile on the airline's website, find the section for secure traveler information or known traveler programs, and enter your KTN. Once it is stored in your profile, every time you book a flight with that airline using your frequent flyer number, your KTN will automatically be added to your reservation, and your boarding pass will print with TSA PreCheck if you are flying from a U.S. airport where PreCheck is available. This eliminates the need to manually enter your KTN every time you book a ticket. Action step 4. If you are a dual British citizen, download the UK ETA app on your smartphone and verify that your British passport information is correct and that your passport is valid. Even though you do not need an ETA as a British citizen when entering the UK, having the app and understanding how the system works can be helpful if questions arise. More importantly, check your British passport expiration date right now and set a reminder in your calendar to renew it at least 6 months before it expires. Do not let your British passport expire and then scramble to renew it when you need to travel urgently. Action step 5, create a dedicated dual passport travel kit that you bring with you on every international trip. This kit should include both of your valid passports, any expired passports from the past 10 years that contain visa stamps or travel history, a printed or digital copy of your global entry card if you have one, printed copies of your flight itinerary and hotel confirmations, and a small index card or note with a brief written explanation of your dual citizenship that you can show to border officers if questions arise. The explanation might say something like, I hold dual citizenship in the United States and Mexico. I use my U.S. passport to enter and exit the U.S. as required by law, and I use my Mexican passport when traveling to Mexico. Both passports belong to me and represent my legal citizenship status. Having this prepared in advance means you do not have to improvise an explanation under stress. Now, I want to address the emotional aspect of all this because I know that when you first hear about new biometric systems, facial recognition, database matching, and the possibility of flags and secondary screening, it can feel scary and overwhelming. You might start thinking, is having dual citizenship going to become a problem? Should I just give up one of my nationalities to make travel simpler? Am I going to be treated like a suspicious person every time I cross a border? I want you to take a deep breath and hear this clearly. 99% of dual citizens navigate these border systems successfully every single day without any problems whatsoever. The new biometric technology actually makes travel faster and more efficient for the vast majority of people. The systems are getting smarter, more sophisticated, and better at quickly verifying legitimate travelers and moving them through borders efficiently. The problems that do occur are almost always the result of being unprepared, not understanding the rules, or failing to bring proper documentation. They are not the result of dual citizenship itself being suspicious or problematic. Border officers encounter dual citizens constantly. It is routine, it is normal, it is not a red flag. What raises questions is when people cannot explain simple discrepancies, when they seem confused about their own identity, when they are evasive about their travel history, or when they present documents that do not match the information in border control systems. If you follow the guidance I've given you today, if you prepare your documents properly, if you understand which passport to use when, if you can briefly and confidently explain your dual citizenship status when asked, you will have no problems. In fact, you will benefit from these new systems because biometric verification is incredibly fast and automated gates move people through borders much quicker than traditional passport control lines with human officers checking documents manually. Many people in the comments of my videos have shared their experiences as dual citizens traveling through modern borders, and the overwhelming majority report smooth, fast, professional interactions. You are not alone in having dual citizenship. You are part of a growing global population of people with connections to multiple countries, and border systems are adapting to accommodate this reality, not to punish it. As we reach the end of this video, I want to leave you with this perspective. International travel in 2026 is still wonderful, still enriching, still accessible. The new biometric border systems are designed to enhance security while speeding up processing for legitimate travelers. As a dual citizen, you have the incredible privilege of being able to live, work, and travel in multiple countries, to maintain connections to multiple cultures, and to enjoy opportunities that most people never have. Do not let anxiety about border technology take away from that privilege. Prepare properly, understand the rules, bring the right documents, and travel with confidence. The world is still open to you. If you have your own dual passport travel stories, experiences navigating these new biometric systems, or specific questions about particular countries that still confuse you, please share them in the comments below. Your experiences can help other viewers who are dealing with similar situations, and your questions help me create future content that addresses the real issues people are facing. If this video helped you understand how to navigate international travel as a dual citizen, please hit the like button, share it with friends or family members who need this information, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss future videos about immigration rules, travel regulations, and border policies explained in clear, calm language. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm Daniel Carson, and I'm here to help you travel safely, legally, and confidently. Safe travels, and I'll see you in the next video.